Today, I'm going to be talking about who would win in an actual fight. King Kong from the 2005 film, or George from Rampage. Now, let's talk about Kong first. Kong is incredibly strong and was able to take on 3 V-Rexes at once. V-Rexes are basically T-Rexes on steroids. V-Rexes are stronger, faster, and more agile and smarter than your basic T-Rex. Kong was then able to pick up a big boulder and smash it on the first V-Rex's head. Kong then smashed the second V-Rex's head in the wall of a ravine. And then, of course, he ripped the jaws open of the final V-Rex. Kong was badly injured after the battle, leaving him loads of scars across all of his body. Once Kong was brought back to New York, he was easily able to break through the metal chains he was being kept up in. Kong was also really easily able to break out of the building he was being kept in, and went on a rampage in New York, and was able to lift 1930s cars like they were nothing. After he was done rampaging in New York, he decided to climb to the very top of the Empire State Building. Kong also punched one of the airplanes out of the sky and they went falling all the way to the ground. Kong was badly injured by 1930s technology though, and it even led up to his death. But now that I've talked about how strong Kong is, I want to talk about how big he is now. Kong is 25 feet tall, and so that makes him around the size of the V-Rexes, which an average V-Rex is around 20 feet tall. Kong is also extremely intelligent, which I think you already knew that by now, since he is a giant primate, and primates are known for being the smartest creatures on planet Earth. Kong is also really fast and agile, able to avoid many attacks from the V-Rexes and also many of the military's weapons in New York. Kong is also really durable, and was able to still fight after being bitten a lot by all the V-Rexes. Although in New York, Kong was badly injured after fighting planes, 1930s planes, to the point where it weakened him, where he fell off the Empire State Building. Alright, now let's talk about George. George is a giant silverback albino gorilla. George is extremely strong. He was able to pick up tanks like they were toys. George was even able to take Ralph, which is a giant wolf, even bigger than George himself, and took him and threw him pretty far. George also grabbed a construction crane and slapped it against Lizzie's face, which sent her flying into a building. And Lizzie is a giant mutated crocodile, which is way more huge than George. George was also able to carry a helicopter in one hand as well. George casually ran through buildings like it was nothing, and he even threw a small building onto a tank. I think I've said enough how strong George is, but I also will say that he's extremely intelligent, which is not a surprise, but he's able to communicate through sign language, which is a step up from Kong. And he even played death at the end of the final movie. So yeah, he is really intelligent, which is no surprise, honestly. This is also not really a surprise, but George is extremely durable. He was able to withstand current-day guns like they were nothing. George even survived falling off a giant skyscraper. Also even surviving a plane crash, which most likely killed everyone on the plane, except for George. He was also literally impaled by a giant metal spear, and still defeated Lizzie by that metal spear that he got impaled with. George, of course, is also really big, standing at 40 to 55 feet tall. Now I think it's time to get into who I actually think would win in the fight. Now let me just start off by saying George is twice the size of Kong, easily putting George at a size advantage. Now, due to the fact that George can sign language, puts George at a rate that means that he is probably more smarter than Kong. Also, not to mention durability. Kong was taken out by 1930s technology, while current technology did barely anything to George. Kong was easily taken out by 1930s technology, and it even led up to death. George was shot by missiles, bullets, and lots of other military stuff. Now, time for strength. Kong was able to defeat 3 V-Rexes at the same time, and he was able to take out planes in New York and flip cars over like they were nothing. While George, on the other hand, he was able to do quite a bit of more stuff. He ran through buildings like they were paper, and not to mention threw a small building onto a tank. He threw helicopters at tanks. Well, actually, I meant the reverse. He threw tanks at helicopters. At one point, he holds a helicopter with one hand, was able to put up quite a battle with Ralph, and threw him pretty far. And he also put up a pretty good fight with Lizzie, not only killing her, but also doing a lot of damage to her in the process, like grabbing that crane and slapping her with it. And he even grabbed Lizzie's tail from crushing Davis and prevented him from dying. Also, not to mention, he survived a plane crash and survived a building while he was on the building, and it fell all the way to the ground, and it was a tall building. Meanwhile, Kong actually died by falling off a building, but he was weakened by the bullets from the planes, which does give a strength advantage to George, not Kong. All in all, I think at the end of the day, George takes the victory. He's stronger, bigger, more durable, and more intelligent. Kong, while though is impressive, taking on 3 V-Rexes and killing them at the same time, and also did a pretty big rampage in New York, still doesn't live up to what the things George can do. So, that's who I think the winner is. The winner of this battle goes to George.